Alright, welcome. This is Nuke Marine presenting Let's Learn Japanese, course series for the self-study of Japanese from basics and beginnings up to intermediate, hopefully advanced. Today, as usual, it's a Let's Read Japanese. So the episode is Neon Genesis Evangelion, episodes 18 and 19 if all goes well. I only did one episode yesterday, so I'll try to do two today, depending on how it goes. Also, I apologize. I think my internet connection was being a little wonky this morning, so if it ends up like I'm starting to drop too many frames, starting to drop out too much, then I'll stop the live stream at that as well. But yeah, hopefully it goes quite well. Really not too much. I was doing a lot of discussion yesterday, maybe at the beginning that I shouldn't have. But again, this is a Let's Learn Japanese, so I'm going to be talking about learning Japanese. And a lot of everything I say is like repeating a lot of stuff, just because it's usually you're going to get people who are maybe tuning in for the first few times, and then, okay, they're the ones that really needs to hear it. And sometimes I try to mention is that, again, I'm not good at Japanese. I am not nowhere near as good. And what I do, though, is just I recommend materials and steps that I've learned from other people. And that's pretty much it. If they, to kind of put it. Now, I do have from my own personal experience, like what I could see, like, hey, I was getting fast progress, or what seemed to actually be really good on improving my personally perceived level. So I do offer that as my personal suggestion on things. But like I said, if I recommend something like the Tango vocabulary series, that's nothing controversial there. It's just, okay, it's a pre-made set of vocabulary words with example sentences. Same with, I recommend learning hiragana, katakana using Heizik's Remembering the Kana, because I thought that was pretty effective. It's not the only way you can do it. You could just do it brute force or through some other method. I just found it effective in not only do you recognize characters, but to write the characters from memory. Similar with remembering the kanji. And it's not only good at recognizing characters, but also writing characters from memory. Even if I may not recommend that you concentrate on that or make that dedicate too much time to that ability, it is a useful ability to have. And if you do it in chunks of 500 kanji and 2,000 words, and at least concentrate on those, being able to write those confidently, I think you'll find it pays off in the long run. Because a lot of things you're doing you're playing catch up. You cannot compete with the amount of hours a native has spent consuming their own language, but you do have to consume that language in order to get to a level of fluency that's let's say, get to a level of confident fluency. And there are tricks for that catch up. That's what Anki does. It's a trick in a way, or it's a shortcut in that if you go at the whole ZIF model of exposure to the language. Let's say there's within reason 30,000 words out there, and the average adult comprehends without much effort. Let's say in the Japanese language, a more educated adult may know more, but let's just say the word 30,000. Okay, now the first 1,000 of those, actually a lot less than that, but let's just say the first 1,000 words or so is used 50% of the time. So just standard immersion, you're going to get exposure to those 1,000 words, whether you use Anki or not. And you can even bring that up to like 2,000 words, so you're at 75%, or 4,000 words, so you're at 90%. Just reading every day for a couple hours, you're probably going to get exposure to those words. You may just, as long as you learn those words, like even with just a regular pop-up dictionary like I'm doing, you're probably going to become familiar with those words and understand it and comprehend them at an intuitive level after just a year and a half of reading a couple hours a day, just through, or watching 2 to 4 hours of Japanese shows a day. Just that normal level of exposure. I'm saying normal, but just that level of exposure, it may seem like, why am I bothering with Anki? That's, this stuff, you just get it through immersion. But it's those, but you notice we said 30,000, so we're only at 4,000, and there's still 26,000 words out there. Now, just to get up to 90%, 95% is 6,000 words, and 98% is around 10,000 words. So now we're at 10,000 words. We're a third of the way of what a normal adult does, and just doing normal immersion let's say 4,000 of those words are popping up 3% of the time, just through normal immersion. You're probably not going to learn those words just through immersion alone, or at least not know them quite well. You probably have to do immersion for a lot longer than a year and a half in order to build up that type of knowledge. Hence where Anki comes into play, in that it's giving you the repetitiveness, the exposure to those words at a higher frequency than you would experience through natural immersion. And with that, you're going to comprehend them better. So that comprehension is there when they do come up in your normal reading and through your normal exposure to it. That's the trick. And 10,000 doesn't have to be a stop. You can keep going on from there, like somewhere between 10,000 to 30,000. If you're just adding like 10 words a day, let's say over a course of a year, if you're consistent. Now I'm not consistent, but let's say if you're consistent, do 10 words a day, and in a year's time, that's about 35. We'll say it's 3,500 words. We'll say you're not perfect, but you're close to perfect on the whole 10 words a day thing, and that's 3,500 words. And then in 2 years' time, that's 7,000 words, and in 3 years' time, that's 10,000 words. Yeah, and also in that time, if you're doing normal immersion, you are going to learn words passively through that immersion process, like you would in your native language. So you are, it's where Anki and the reading and immersion should complement each other. It's not like, oh, I got to do Anki and and say do the immersion. Or it's like, oh, I got to immerse in everything. Immersion's like king here, and then not do Anki. And either, no matter the path you choose, there are give and takes. There's going to be some positives and negatives to each of those. But I do think, though, you'll find it works best if you use Anki in conjunction with immersion. Once you get to the intermediate and definitely the higher levels. But at the beginning, maybe you don't have an Anki thing. You could use it, but you may find, like, why am I, why do I need these words past 5 years or even past the 6-month mark if I'm doing normal levels of immersion? And because those are all basic words. But don't keep that mindset once you get into the area of the less frequent words. Just remember that. And hopefully that makes sense. Because I get to feel like more and more people are going to realize, like, okay, yeah, this reading native material is a really good idea. Not just reading, news broadcasts and newspapers and whatnot, just to get good in Japanese. Like, they're getting good at Japanese to pass a test, then, yeah, because they think, like, by passing the test, that tells them they're good in Japanese. Where actually, the idea of the test is to able to gauge if someone who's good at Japanese should be able to pass the test. But just because you pass the test doesn't mean you're good at Japanese. Hopefully that makes sense. It'd be kind of like someone who just practices one song is going to be really good at that one song, but then they're going to probably not be as well if they're showing some other song. Whereas someone who just constantly practice all sorts of songs, maybe could be, when they're exposed to a new song, sing that one just better, just because they've been exposed to this variety through variety. But then on the other hand, if someone is, let's say you got people who are practicing variety, like two persons, so they're both doing variety of singing, so not just concentrating on one thing. They're not trying to do one thing perfectly, they're trying to do many things good. But then one person is getting feedback from a professional singer. I think the person, and again, there's no proof on this, so this is all mental exercise. I'm sure there could be studies on this, but the person who gets feedback will be the one who improves faster than the one who just is singing randomly. So they both can be singing randomly. One just happens to have, hey, maybe takes an hour a week of instruction, and then the other one is getting zero instruction, but both are singing the same amount of songs. The one with the instruction is going to get better. And that can apply with Japanese, where if you got one person who is, let's just say, only reading Japanese, but another person is reading, but also doing something like putting some words in an Anki deck to get some structured recall, test their recall of, or their comprehension, structured comprehension recall. I think though the person who is putting some time with the structured study will improve faster. Will be at least be notably improve faster, as long as they're both doing also in addition to the reading. And that can also happen when it comes to speaking. You know, the one who just goes out to bars and just speaks every day, whereas you got another person also goes out to bars and speaks every day, right? But the person, one of them decides, hey, I want to have a voice coach. I want someone who's an hour a week or something, or maybe 30 minutes a day or an hour a week, whatever, and have that native person correct their pronunciation. You know, not depending on strangers to do it, because strangers are probably not going to do it. But if you do it through, let's say, italki, and this person say, hey, look, I want you to correct how I'm talking. You know, if I'm you know, and maybe even do it in different ways. Like, here's a recording of me reading this 10 minutes of this dialogue. And so play the dialogue, and the native person's listening to this recording of you, and they'll pause it after here, I want you to read this again. You know, because they noticed a mistake, and you heard it, and maybe even you noticed a mistake once you heard yourself speaking it, and now they can correct it and, you know, play off on that. So it's a type of feedback to where you can fix errors you didn't realize you had, because you don't notice it when you speak it, or you're not at a level to know, even if you could hear it, like even if you did hear the recording, you wouldn't know that you've made a mistake. Again, just things, but those are things you don't need to worry about as a beginner. These are things to, like, you know, when you get up to that intermediate, definitely in that advanced stages where, all right, you've already got a very high level of comprehension of the language. Now we need to start outputting it and making sure what you output sounds good when you do it. Not like after the fact, but as it's happening. And then that takes practice, and you can get good at it. But just hold off on that point till you're in that area of, you know, you've got a few thousand words under your belt, and you've listened to hundreds, if not thousands, of hours of Japanese, to where your brain is familiar with what sounds right and what doesn't sound right. Okay, I've talked enough. Let's get into it. So we're about 50 minutes in. All right, take the microphone down to 30, and yeah, let's get started. Tell you what, let me just read this real quick. Okay. 残酷な天使のように少年よ神話になれ。青い風が今胸のドを叩いていっても、私だけをただ見つめて微笑んでいるあなた、そっと触れるものを求めることに夢中で、梅さえまだ知らない。言いたいけな瞳だけどいつか気づくでしょう。そのね、I keep wanting to sing it, but その背中には遥か未来目指すための羽があること、残念な天使の訂正、窓辺からやげて飛び立つ、ほっと走る熱いパトス、思い出を売り切るなら、この空を抱いて輝く少年よ、神話ねなれ。神話ね。God, that sounds so weird just be saying it instead of trying to sing it. It's just easier to sing it just because I've heard it sung quite a few times since this Let's Read started. Anyway, let's get going. There's going to be a few English words in this at the beginning, but...
This is Ecta 64 calling Neopan 400, confirmed.
Okay, Zenku Kohuro Joni Sekiran Kokuni Cumulonimbus, I guess. Sekiran Kumo?
Cumulonimbus clouds in your immediate flight path. Over.
This is Neopan 400. Cumulonimbus clouds confirmed. Barometer indicates
I can't read
no
that.
hazard.
routine course. Expect
到着時間の、
to arrive on schedule. This is Ecta 64. Roger it out.
Oh goody さえずり
アスカは
もう先に出てるわ。徹底して私と顔を合わせないつもりね。
どうしてですか？
しんちゃんにはまだ女心はわからないか。ところでどうぞ。
4号機が欠番って噂本当ですか？
欠番
なんか事故があって爆発したって。
ええ、本当よ。4号機はネルフ第2支部とともに消滅したわ。 S2 機関の実験中にね。ここは大丈夫よ。3体ともちゃんと動いてるじゃない。パイロットもスタッフも優秀だし。
でもアメリカから3号機が来るって松代でするんでしょ、軌道実験。
うん、ちょっち4日ほど留守にするけど、家事が面倒見てくれるから心配ないわよ。
でも実験は
律子も立ち会うんだし、もう
立ち会うん立ち会うんつこも立ち会うんだし
問題ないわよ。
でもパイロットは
そのパイロットなんだけど。
はい。
おはようございます。今日は桂木さんにお願いに上がりました。自分をエヴァンゲリオン3号機のパイロットにしてください。
じゃあまだシンジ君は知らないの？
なかなか言い出すきっかけがね。怖いのよ。時々何考えてるのかわからないし。
しっかりしなさいよ。自分で保護者役を買って出たんじゃない。
買って出たんじゃない。
そうなんだけどね。で、いつ呼ぶのパイロット？
そうね、明日になるわね。準備もいろいろあるし。
彼が自分で言い出すかもしれないわ。
それはないわね。人に自慢するほど喜んでなかったもの。入院中の妹を本部の医学部に転院させてくれっていうのが彼の出した例の条件だったわ。
美里さんも冷たいよ、まったく。やる気なら俺が一番なんだし。予備でもいいから使ってくれりゃいいのに。なあ、当時。
ああ。
どうしたの？先に出たのに随分遅かったじゃない。
なんや、今日は夫婦喧嘩はなしかい。
あんたたちの顔見たくなかっただけよ。
So you want to say it なしかい if that's a
このサンバカトリアが。
サンバカトリオ。
さて、飯。あれ、当時は？
いないんだよ。
飯も食わずに？あいつが？ありえない話だぞ。
変だよね、その頃。
鈴原君、
なんや綾波か。シンジやったらここにはおらんで。知っとんのやろわしのこと。ソリも知っとるようやし。
そういうのを
知らんのはシンジだけか。人の心配とは珍しいな。
そう、よくわからない。
お前が心配しとんのはシンジや。
そう、そうかもしれない。
そうや。
ヒッカリー、お弁当食べよ。
遅れること2時間。ようやくお出ましか。私をここまで待たせた男は初めてね。デートの時は待たずにさっさと帰ってたんでしょ。
でありまして、これが世に言うセカンドインパクトであります。私はその頃根府川に住んでいたのですが、
根府川住んでいたのですが、
南極大陸の溶解に伴う水位の上昇により、
南極大陸南極大陸妖怪の妖怪を
今では海の底になってしまいました。
すまんな転校生。わしはお前を殴らないかん。殴っとかな気が済まへんのや。
ごめんねアスカ、いつもならイカリ君と一緒に帰ってるのに。いいのよ、シンジとは義務でいるだけだし。
義務デュリ人と人としてやるだけだし。
今日は顔見たくない気分だったし。鈴原のことでしょ。わかる。見え見えよ。わかんないのはあのサンバカトリオくらいね。でもイカリ君ってナイーブそうだけど。
ナイブイカリ君ってナイブそうだけど、
あれが一番鈍感。
どうでもあれ鈍いこと鈍感。
おまけにバカよ。人との付き合い方知らないもの。そう。鈴原の好きな子って綾波さんかもしれない。鈴原があの優等生を。
優等生を
昼仲良さそうだったし。安心して光、それはないわ。あの女はシンジの1万倍も人との付き合い知らないもの。
一番前
そうそう。一つ聞いていい？何？あの熱血バカのどこがいいわけ？
熱血バカのどこが
優しいところ。
Is that 警部へ警笛 Okay 警笛遠くで響く電車の警笛電車の音声
そういえばさ、
梶さんお風呂長いのね。
3号機って誰が乗るのかな。
え、まだ聞いてないの？
誰？
知らない。
いい湯だったな。なんだ、またやり合ってんのか？しょうがない。
やり合ってまたやり合ってんのか。
桂木がいないといつもこうなのか？
違うわよ。私だって梶さんと夜を過ごすんですもの。ニコニコ笑っていたいわよ。でも今日はダメなの。できないの。
分かった、もう寝よう。こういう時は早めに寝ちまうのが一番だ。
早めに寝ちまうのが一番だ。もう寝ました、梶さん。いや、まだ。
もう寝ました、梶さん。
いや、まだ。
Actually, I'm answering. Sangoki, yeah, so although this starts with 0, so 0, 1, 2, and this would be the third one, so that'd be technically the fourth pilot, but it's Evangelion number 3, since Rei's one is called 0, and then Shogoki would be number 1, and then, actually, no, they skipped one, so the fourth one was destroyed, so this would be the fifth one. Yeah, because the fourth one got destroyed the previous episode, and this you never saw it. It just an explosion happened and everything disappeared within 80 or 90 kilometers of it. So yeah, the numbering system is kind of weird. So there'll be 5 of them, 0 the prototype or whatever it is, number the first one of the type, then 1, 2, and 3. So yeah, I'm guessing.
僕の父さんってどんな人ですか？
また唐突だな。
唐突 all of a sudden 前触れ out of nowhere. Oh, 唐突 like いきなり Yeah, I would say that's like いきなり唐突
桂木の話かと思ってたよ。
梶さんずっと一緒にいるみたいだし。
一緒にいるのは福祉でさ。君は自分の父親のことを聞いて回ってんのかい？
ずっと一緒にいなかったから。
知らないのか。
でもこの頃分かったんです。父さんのこといろいろと、仕事のこととか母さんのこととか。だから
それは違うな。分かった気がするだけさ。人は他人を完全には理解できない。
他人を完全には理解できない。
自分自身だって怪しいもんさ。
自分自身だって。It's oneself, right? 自分自身だって怪しいんだ。
100% 理解し合うのは不可能なんだよ。まあ、だからこそ人は自分を他人を知ろうと努力する。だから面白いんだな、人生は。
美里さんともですか？
彼女というのは遥か彼方の女と書く。
That's a phrase. Come on. 遥か彼方あるものをこうして なしてからはるか彼方はるか彼方 See, that's a there it is. To the far off distance. はるか彼方はるか彼方
女性は向こう岸の存在だよ。
岸女性は向こう岸
我々にとってはね、男と女の間には海よりも広くて深い川があるってことさ。
僕には大人の人は分かりません。
アポトシストシスアパトシス各上冷却空気各部で順調なり
これだと即実践も可能だわ。
即これだと即
そうよかったわね。気のない返事ね。この機体も納品されれば。
納品この機械も納品されれば
あなたの直轄部隊に配属されるのよ。
直轄あなたの直轄部隊に配属
ヘバを4機も独占か。
独占一人じゃめああナポリ一人じめにすること自分一人のものにするナポリ4機も6点しか
その気になれば世界を滅ぼせるわね。
滅ぼすおぼせるわねおぼせるわね。
シンジ君に話はしたの？
実験が終わったらね。
まだ来てないよねアスカ。ああ今日は来ないかもね。今日こそはと思ったのに。食べる
3号機ってもう日本に到着してんだろ。
うん昨日着いたみたいだけど。
いいなあ誰が乗るのかな。当時のやつかな。今日休んでるしな。
まさか
固定
了解。作業をフェーズ2へ行こう。
境界線絶対境界線突破します。
実験中止。回路切断。
まさかちょっと
Okay. Ambivalence. All right, cool. So, life's choice, the choice of life, as the title is, right there. This first part was not too difficult. Like I said, it started about, I want to say, 15, 20, about 15 minutes in. It's it took about 20 minutes just to get through the first half, so that wasn't too bad at all. If it was like that all the time, it wouldn't be probably much closer to be done with this particular drama anime. I think I keep saying that. It's like, don't. This was. It's still a good show. It's still a good episode and whatnot. These are probably not the best choices I have probably made for wanting to do these Let's Reads. But on the other hand, I really like these anime. So, if you got a choice between something that's boring, that is easy to read or easy to get through, and something that's fun, that's more difficult, go with the more fun part. I think the payoff would be much better and enjoy much more. What else? It's just also all these little setups, because they keep doing the setups anyway of the the emergency launch procedures, oh my god, some accident happened, because there's always an accident happening, or an attack occurring, so it's like you're always hearing the same thing, so those are starting to get more and more passé, so that's a good thing as well. Anyway, let's keep going. Matsushiro にて爆発および第3部隊を直ちに派遣。救助および団体部隊のうちに天智が介入する前に全て処理しろ。了解。事故現場に未確認移動物体を発見。未確認
パターンオレンジ、使徒とは確認できません。
第一種戦闘配置。
総員第一種戦闘配置。地対戦用意。
エヴァ天気発進。迎撃姿勢緊急配置。
空輸開始は2丸を予定。
クローン開始。Surveillance, reconnaissance, air transport, airlift. Kua Kaishi wa Futamaru.
Matsushiro で事故。 そんな。じゃあ美里さんたちは。
まだ連絡取れない。
そんな、どうしよう。
何ぐじぐじ言ってんのよ。今私らが心配したって何にもならないでしょ。
でも使徒相手に僕らだけで。
今は碇司令が直接指揮を取ってるわ。
指揮を取る。直接指揮を取ってる。
父さんは。
延山で映像を捉えました。シモニターに回します。
やはりこれか。活動停止信号を発信。エントリープラグを強制射出。
強制射出。Emergency eject。強制射出。
ダメです。停止信号およびプラグ排出コード認識しません。
排出コード、プラグ排出コード認識しません。認識しません。
パイロットは
呼吸心拍の反応はありますが、おそらく
エヴァンゲリオン3号機は現時刻をもって破棄。
現時刻を刻モード破棄。
目標を第13使徒と識別する。
識別。
しかし
予定通り延山で戦線を展開。目標
展開。
今日撃破しろ。
目標接近。前期地上戦用意。
まさか使徒。これが使徒ですか。
そうだ、目標だ。
目標ってこれはエヴァじゃないか。
そんな使徒に乗っ取られるなんて。
やっぱり人が、子供が乗ってるのかな。同い年の。
あんたまだ知らないの？3号機にはね。
アスカ。アスカ。
エヴァ2号機完全に沈黙。
Okay, so she was the second. Okay, Evangelion number 2. Okay.
パイロットは脱出。回収班向かいます。
Recovery team, right? 回収班向かいます。
目標移動0号機へ。
レイ、近接戦闘は先へ。目標を足止めしろ。今初号機を回す。
了解。乗っているわ彼。
was quick.
0号機サワーに首都侵入。
サワンに侵入。
神経節が侵されていきます。
神経節が動かされていきます。落とされていきます。
左腕部切断、急げ。
左腕部切断。
しかし神経接続を解除しないと。
接続解除しないと。
切断だ。
切断だ。
0号機中波パイロットは負傷。
そんな。
目標は接近中だ。あと二丸で接触する。
二丸。Oh. Okay, getcha. Okay. He said 二丸、二丸。二丸。
お前が倒せ。
でも目標って言ったって。人が乗ってるんじゃないの？同い年の子供が。エントリープラグ。やっぱり人が乗ってるんだ。
力。力むような声。
生命維持に支障発生。
生命維持が支障。Interruption code. Yeah. 支障発生。
パイロットが危険です。
いかん。シンクロ率を 60% にカットだ。待て。しかしイカリ、このままではパイロットが死ぬぞ。シンジ、なぜ戦わない？
だって人が乗ってるんだよ、父さん。
構わん。そいつは使徒だ。我々の敵だ。
でもできないよ。助けなきゃ。人殺しなんてできないよ。
お前が死ぬぞ。
いいよ。人を殺すよりはいい。
Alright, never mind. I'll make a comment after this.
構わん。パイロットと初号機のシンクロを全面カットだ。
カットですか？
そうだ。回路をダミープラグに切り替えろ。
しかしダミーシステムにはまだ問題も多く、赤木博士の指示もなく。
今のパイロットよりは役に立つ。やれ。
荒い息。
なんだ。何をしたんだ父さん。
信号受信を確認。
管制システム切り替え完了。
全 神経ダミーシステムへ直結完了。
感情素子の 32.8% が不鮮明。
Let's see if that's a full phrase. Okay. そうし。感情そうしの。不鮮明。
モニターできません。
構わん。システム開放。攻撃開始。
どよめき。どよめき。
これがダミープラグの力なの。
システム正常。
さらにゲインが上がります。
きしむ。It's like a きしむ。Okay, grading.
エヴァ3号機。いえ、目標は完全に沈黙しました。
これにしよっと。児玉お姉ちゃんとのぞみと私。
こだま歌舞伎のこだま
4人分か。明日は食べてくれるかな。
こっちにもいたぞ。生存者だ。
生存者。生存者。
息はある。急いで救護を回してくれ。
生きてる。火事。
よかったな、桂木。心配ない。君よりは軽傷だ。
さあ、エヴァ3号機は
使徒 として処理されたそうだ。初号機。
私シンジ君に何も話してない。シンジ君。
美里さん、無事だったんですね。
私はね、ごめんなさい。私はあなたに大事なこと伝えなきゃいけなかったのに、こんなことに。
美里さん、僕は人、父さんがやめてって頼んだのに。
シンジ君、ごめんね。ごめんね。エントリープラグ回収班より連絡。パイロットの生存を確認。
生きてた。
3号機のパイロットは、フォースチルドレンは
当時。
He's all sorts of fucked up.
シンジ君、シンジ君、シンジ君、シンジ君。
Although that should be heartbeat. Although.
シンジ君。
Now let's finish this real quick.
シンジはついに自らの意志でエヴァーを降りる。だが彼に関係なく進行する最強の人が次の惨劇を生むのだった。
惨劇。感激惨劇。
次回男の戦い。
男の戦い。All right, cool. So let's see. This went by a lot faster, and even though it included the battle in there, this was a really good episode. And again, you notice like the less you involve the Asuka character, the better it gets. Get rid of the love triangles and stuff, even though that's kind of important. I mean that again, you kind of want to make sure these are not just robots and whatnot. They've got. But we kind of like make the drama of their relationships like to the forefront. It kind of like it's like okay, hey, a little perspective here. Now that said, again, this kid's only 14, so the idea of like, hey, he'd rather die than kill another person. But you realize like by letting yourself get killed in your billion-dollar, multi-billion-dollar piece of equipment that you're the only one who can pilot, or one of the only few people that can pilot, the cost of lives to others would be greater. So it's like, okay, great. Sort of like the whole Batman. Like it used to be, Batman was written. He wasn't like, obviously the idea of violence. I mean, again, like how when you like injure a person for life, have you really done anything that's like, oh, they didn't die, but they're just like basically got no life after that. It's like, have you really, it's not exactly like you're being, someone of higher virtue that way. Or if you allow something where like when you haven't killed something, but through your inaction allowed others to be killed, that it was within your power, that was well within your power or ability, then yeah, you do have some responsibility in that. And right now it's like what he's doing is something that happens in the real world. Like the first ship I went on was Tarwin. We had a XO. He was a I believe an executive officer. He might have been, or one of the, but he on a smaller ship that he had some type of damage, and due to the damage, had to seal off holes. Now you have to seal off the holes, keep the flooding from getting too bad and then sinking the entire ship. And he had to give the order to close the doors on 3 people. So yeah, those 3 people had to die. They were alive. So yeah, he was the one that gave the order to make sure that they died at that instant. Now, if they hadn't have done that, they may have lived for a few extra minutes or longer, but would have cost a ship and God knows how many other people. I mean, so again, that is one of the points where, again, you got to put somebody in a position of leadership to be able to make a call like that. And it is one of the worst calls you could think to make. I mean, you know, there are calls you got to make where you have to maybe attack. Let's say, for example, let's just talk about 9/11. Let's say, and maybe this has happened, but let's say you are a fighter pilot and one of the planes, again, you already know what they're using the planes for. So do you allow it to where, let's say the one where the passengers took over and downed the plane themselves, or it got down through there trying to take over the plane. Let's say the passengers didn't do that and this plane was still going on to its target. You have to give the order to take it down. You can't say, oh, I can't do this. It's okay. Unfortunately, yeah, you have to be the one. Now, and that's where emotionally, and unfortunately, I hate to say this, you got to take the training to detach yourself from that order, in that you personally aren't, you personally are pulling the trigger, yes. You're not ultimately responsible. It's just that everything that led up to that moment has a responsibility in that action. You were given the authority to fly that plane, and you weren't told by yourself to shoot. I mean, you were given the order to shoot. All the steps that get into the idea is like, hey, we gotta make sure we have someone who has trust, and we trust that where when the time comes and they pull it, it's not like it was an easy decision, but it was a decision that had to be made nonetheless, and without waiting. Now, I don't know what the next episode will do with him, but maybe what his character Shinji may learn is by giving up his responsibility to take out this immediate threat to humanity, let's say. His father had to make the tougher choice. Now, it looked like he was cold-hearted. I almost saw a smile on his face, so you don't know. But let's say there wasn't any ulterior motive here, and he wanted to just give the order. Now, because his son, even though it could have been to anybody, let's just say, okay, let's just say, okay, this pilot refused. He took over. He basically took out the pilot's decision and said, okay, look, we're going to go into autonomous mode. And through autonomous mode, or the dummy plug, whatever the equivalent, you saw how lack of restraint this creature, the machine that the animal machine that they're controlling does. You can see it becomes a very nasty piece of work. Hence the reason why you want this pilot in control. So maybe he learns, hey, look, you can't just say, hey, I don't want to do this, because look, it has to be done. And with him being there, it would have had control where maybe the angel would have been incapacitated enough to where he could have removed the dummy plug and then, remove the control capsule or the pilot capsule and then destroyed the beast further. That could have happened. But since he forgo that, like he didn't want to, he basically made zero decisions other than I don't want to do anything. Unfortunately, the situation was now made worse. He could have had it under control. He chose not to do anything, which now meant situations had to go beyond what would have been a more controlled response. And like, I've never been put in that situation, like I was mentioned earlier. I remember hearing that from my executive officer when I first got the ship, because again, when he's telling the story, and he's essentially almost about to break, he's like on the verge of breaking down crying just recalling that story, which means I believe the emotions that he had in telling that. I've never been in a situation like that, not even close. And I would hope, though, if the situation came up, even though it would have been a horrible choice, I still had to make the right choice, even if it was out of all the levels of it, still it was a horrible choice that will haunt you, but still need to be done. I don't think it right now. Like I said, I'm not in the military anymore, so I doubt I'll ever be in a situation where that has to happen. But sometimes, yeah, it can't be like on, you know, like in the comic books where you get a character like Batman where he enjoys dressing up and going beating up people, instead of like using, you know, when, you know, people look at it, it's like you realize like you could have used all this power and resources to create a better life for everybody, so there's no need for crime, you know. But whereas we see with here, I'm pretty sure all this technology and resource, even though right now they have to dedicate it all to keep themselves from being destroyed, I would hope, assuming the story isn't going where I think it's going, but it probably is. But you know, you use this technology to now improve the lives of everybody. You know, kind of bring up the lifestyle of the quality of life of everyone. Because I think obviously they've, you know, you look at you know, this technology. Yeah, you can. I mean, it seems like they could build a city overnight, rebuild a city overnight. I mean, they've got the resources to do that, and I don't know how many people get this. I don't know. I mean, obviously this is a futuristic tale, so it's a little bit different. But I'm a big believer in that. It in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't take that much energy to keep a human in a good quality of life. Really, it's just that we don't know how to access that energy. When you look into, like, think of a barrel of oil and how many barrels of oil a human needs to be at just the current level. I mean, there's a number you can actually apply to that. And if you look at like uranium and thorium, I've talked about nuclear power before. Like, you take a baseball of uranium, and we're talking U-238, not like what's called depleted uraniums, the stuff we don't use in nuclear power plants currently. This is the more common form of uranium, or thorium. You use that amount, there's enough in the nuclear bond of the nucleus. There's enough energy to power all the energy that a person needs for their entire life. That is a lifetime supply of energy in the palm of your hand, literally. And that's actually not the best form of, that's not even the best form of energy. I mean, that's just like percentage points. I think even fusion, you think you only get like, I want to say 3.3% of the mass energy. You know, because again, the idea is like, you trading mass for energy, so really it's like you give up a little bit of mass and then you get release the rest as energy type thing. So really, you don't. I mean, when you even think about that, if you get like 100% of the energy that's available in a baseball, then wow, you're talking like millions of people, enough energy to support the life of millions of people. I mean, that's how much energy is just in a baseball of matter. Now, obviously, we're not at that level yet. I mean, that can be reached, but we're not at that level yet. But we are at a level to use fission. And even with fission, just the baseball size of thorium or uranium, you can, again, just generate enough energy for one person for a lifetime. So, and there's not that much, there's plenty of thorium, there's plenty of uranium of that type in the world. So, I mean, literally, they say there's enough to, the amount of our energy we use right now, we've got enough thorium and uranium in the world's supply to do that for 10,000 years, just at our current level of use. And obviously, if you start using that much energy, start having that much energy available, then you start improving what you use that energy for. And you can use that to improve quality of life. Good thing about energy is that helps with the recycling of material, because you're going to need to recycle material, because certain, especially, you know, metals and whatnot, but and maybe even some of the heavy earth elements, and light earth elements. Anyway, sorry about going into this whole discussion. I think I've done it before, but I'm looking at this cartoon, and it's like they've got access to a lot of energy, and the biggest thing to improve life, the ability of mankind, is by improving the amount of energy they have access to and the amount of energy they can utilize. The more we have of that, the better our standard of living. And with enough power, you know, we've got enough where we can generate fuel in order to launch low orbit vehicles, and then again put stuff in orbit where we can actually then use other methods, again, just standard physics of, again, especially using the whole slingshot method. You can use those types of ideas in essentially like putting things, I think I've mentioned this before, like putting things up into further away from the gravity well of Earth. Again, using slingshots, and then from then use fuel to take you the rest of the way. It's kind of cool what you can do, and these are essentially like space elevators. But usually you think of a space elevator, you think of just a single cable going up that's in essentially at the Lagrange point, so where it's got we're at the zero gravity point, between the Earth and the Moon, or somewhere like that, or something. Maybe I'm. Anyway, but instead of using that, instead it'll be a bunch of separate things in orbit at further and further away, but they're about a few kilometer long cable that are rotating around, and then again grabs on the ship, slings it up to a little higher orbit, a few kilometers higher, and just basically keep climbing kilometers. So it may be slower, but it uses so much less fuel that you can now be doing transport. Now, yeah, the transport will be slow, but again, if you're mining stuff on the moon, trying to get it to Earth, or trying to get stuff from Earth to the moon, slow is fine. All right, just don't put people on there. You're just moving the objects, and then it gets to where you need to go. And now you got people living on the moon who have access to supplies that can be delivered on a schedule. So now you can support life on the moon. Sorry about getting into this whole thing. Yeah, and like I said, I I kind of like the show when it's doing this. Even the little drama earlier was kind of good. I mean, you kind of knew that, Toji was going to be the pilot, and you knew, like, okay, this can happen, where you do have to fight friends. Yeah, it may come about. It may have to happen. But you're not really fighting him. He just was a victim. And even if he did nothing, that character would have died through something else. It was, whereas right now, he could have been maybe saved, like he could have had it ripped out and then the angel taken out without any injury. But because he chose to do nothing, he's injured, seriously injured. So anyway, time will tell how that comes about. All right, let's let me take a quick break and.
introduce you to our head designers in the UK. 話せるとそれだけで知らない世界に飛んでいける。ノバ、いっぱい聞けていっぱい喋れる。同じ宿泊プランを利用した2組の夫婦。しかし1泊2名様ダブルベッドルームで11,000円頂戴いたします。安い。すいませんね、得しちゃって。ダブルベッドルームの1泊2名様8,900円頂戴いたします。違うわよ。同じホテルでもサイトによって料金が違います。鳥箱なら人気予約サイトの料金を比較して一番お得な料金を簡単に見つけられます。使ってみては。ホテル鳥箱。君と旅ができて嬉しいよ。いろんなとこ行って素敵な宿に泊まって、これからも君と素敵な旅を見つけたい。宿ホテル予約はなんじゃらリクルート。東和薬品はジェネリックにプラスアルファの価値を飲みやすく苦くないお薬に後から出すんですもの。もっといいお薬を目指したい。アルファのジェネリック。東和薬品のジェネリック。脱塩素ミラブルプラス新発売サイエンス。私は明るくなれる赤が好き。
念中です。総理はこうおっしゃいました。完全実施が困難なオリンピックの延期があり得ると初めて言及しました。お客様です。
ナビダスクリニック新宿院長の浜木かなえさん、
よろしくお願いします。
スポーツ文化評論家の玉木正之さん、
よろしくお願いします。
政治ジャーナリストの田崎史郎さんです。
よろしくお願いします。玉木さん、毎日のようにお話しておりますけども、ついに総理が触れましたね、延期について。玉木さん。玉木さん。
安倍さん初めて言いましたけどね、あまり言わない方がいいですね。IOC は政治家嫌いですから、政治家が先に言うとあまりそれに従いたくないんですよね。だからトランプさんも安倍さんもあまり言わないでいて、でも日本国民だからその後安倍さんが決めるのは IOC です。もちろんそうですね。でも本当にもう延期ですね。これは確定です。あとは時期だけです。
田崎さんが先週は政府の要人関係者の話によると延期っていう声も聞こえてきたよっていうのをおっしゃってましたが、いよいよ総理が触れたので非常にインパクトが大きい。
そうですね。あれは今日未明の IOC の緊急理事会で延期の方向が打ち出されて、中止はないということを確定させたんです。で、総理は昨日午後早い時期に森組織委員会の委員長と森さんは昨日の深夜バッハ会長と話してたんですね。でその報告も来て、それで安心して喋ったんです。
確か先週話したと思いますけど、完全な形で実施するんだと、日本維新の会の方からツッコミを受けても、いやそれしか言えないんだとおっしゃっておりましたが、延期っていうのはこれはもう総理の頭の中にあった。
All right, cool. All right, so see, it's 1:22. Yeah, I was talking a little bit way too much. Sorry about that. All right, let's go.
まずは中止を止めたんだ。そうそう、まず中止を止めた。これだけは絶対いけませんよ。そうです。
Actually, give me a
安心については詳しくお伝えしていこうと思うんですが、というのも日本だけでなくて世界のこれは大問題だからだということです。毎日お伝えしておりますが、このボールも大きくなりまして176の国と地域ということになりました。世界全体で30万人を超えました。まずはここに注目しようと思いますが、そのペースです。こんなグラフをちょっと作ってみました。1月からのグラフなんですが、中国の死者の数が100人を超えたというのが1月の後半あたりです。そして1月の31日、日本時間なんですが、テドロス事務局長が、公衆衛生上の非常事態であるというふうに宣言をしました。日本ではこの宣言がちょっと遅いんじゃないかなんて話もありましたが、それからどんどん増えています。赤が感染者の数、黒いのは死者の数、それからブルーが回復者の数ということになっています。どんどん増えておりまして、日本では2月の下旬ぐらいに総理が学校の休校を要請したり、1週間でした、いろんな要請が出ました。そしてその後なんですが、3月11日ですね、WHO はパンデミックを認定しました。それからなんですが、どんどん増えておりまして、いよいよ30万人を超える。吉野さん、これだけ見ててもやっぱり感染者の増加、もちろん回復している人もいるんですが、やっぱ急激です。
そうですね。特にそのヨーロッパ、イタリア、スペインでの増加っていうものがこのカーブを急激化させてますよね。
すごいんですが、こんなものもちょっと見ました。じゃあ5万人ごとはどのぐらいのペースなんでしょうかということなんですが、最初に世界で5万人を超えたのが2月の15日です。そこから21日かかって10万人になりました。その後8日経って10万人、3日で20万人、2日で25万人、そして三雲さん、1日で5万人増えました。
いやー、誰もここまでとは想像してなかったと思うんですけれども、でもやっぱり日本は早めに手を打ってたっていうことをこうしてみると良かったなっていうか、危機的な状況の前に手を打つという、
それを見ると先生、日本は浜木先生、日本は抑えられてると考えていいんですか？
今のところはなんとかなっている。ただあくまで今のところだと思うんですね。このまま続けられるかどうかっていうのは季節が変わってきて、みんなの行動パターン変わってくる。それから今3月4月でやっぱり移動があったり進学があったりして人々が動くっていう時期になりますので、そこからどういうふうに切り替わっていくかっていうのは油断できない状況だと思います。
じゃあなんでこんなに人が増えてるのか、感染者がということに関して先生に伺いました。 先週あたりから皆さん使い始めている言葉なんですけど、オーバーシュート、爆発的な感染拡大がこれ世界では起きているんではないか。日本ではまだ起きてない。でもいつ起きてもおかしくない。そういうことでしょうか。
はい、そういうふうに感じています。
これは特にそのヨーロッパでこれ目立つんですけれども、何なんですか。ハグであったり血であったり生活習慣という話はしてますけれども、一気に増えてますよね。
そうですね。あとは中国が日本に近かったので、日本でちょっと警戒が早かったっていう可能性はあると思います。で、ヨーロッパの方はちょっと遠いからっていうような感じで、全然別のもの、あるいはSARSまずあまり向こうに行かなかったのでっていうところで油断されてた面はあるかと思うんですね。それで気がついたら一気に増えた。ただ日本ももうすでにそのクラスター対策っていうのをやってますが、それ以外に見えない感染者の方がいるだろうという話は出ていますので、そこからどのように広がってしまうかっていうのはこれから注意していかなきゃいけないと思います。
もう本当回数大数一緒なんですけど、8人は感染させないんでしょこれ。10人いたら8人は人に移さないのに、三雲さん何ですかねこのペース。もっと移してんじゃないのかなと思っちゃうんですよ。
でまた移っちゃうとそれが倍々になっていっちゃうってことですもんね。
これはもうたださん全く分からない。10人いたら8人は人に移さないんですよ。
そうなんですよ。
たった2人が移していくんでしょ。でもこれが爆発的に
増えてくるんですね。不思議ですよね。これ構造がどうなってるかが見えないんですよね。だから止められないんですよ。
どうぞ先生。
誰でもこの2
Okay, cool. Sorry about that. Just had to read up on something real quick. All right, time to go. 27.
クラスターになってしまうところにたまたま出かけたことによってガッと広がる、その2割の人に自分がなってしまっているっていう。
Here we go. Oh, and make sure.
初号機の連動回路カットされました。
射出信号は
Let's see, Marsman 512. Hey, I've been doing your modified version of hazing method, most common 5, and it's already working wonders. Thanks. All right, good to hear.
フラグ側からロックされています。受信しません。
しかしシンジ君、ああしなければ君がやられていたぞ。
しなければ。
そんなの関係ないよ。
だがそれも事実だ。
そんなこと言ってこれ以上僕を怒らせないでよ。初号機に残されているあと185秒。これだけあれば本部の半分は壊せるよ。
今の彼ならやりかねませんね。
シンジ君、話を聞いて。碇司令の判断がなければみんな死んでいたかもしれないのよ。
そんなの関係ないって言ってるでしょ。父さんはあいつは当時を殺そうとしたんだ。この僕の手で。
僕の戦い。
父さん、そこにいるんだろ。何か言ってよ、答えてよ。
LCL 圧縮濃度を限界まで上げろ。
圧縮。Pressure? Compression. 圧縮濃度。
子供のダダに付き合ってる暇はない。
子供のダダに付き合ってる。
まだ直轄回路が残っ。ちくそ。
Damn.
もういいの？
仕事ができれば問題ないわ。休んでらんないわよ、この非常時に。
Okay. Mara's been saying, but I do have a question. If I see Boon, for example, is it enough to remember that it's the kanji in Wakaru? Since I know the word, where should I recall his keyword part? Well, for that, yeah, no. If you know that by itself, it means like Wakaru. It could also mean it means also parts, because like Hachibun Ichi 1 and 8 type thing. So you gotta remember, it's not just about understand, but there's also like understand, but it's also about parts. So that helps where you can say like, and that's where you get like alternate meanings, or how it's used in other words, or how it's used else, in the various words in Japanese. So that helps as well. But yeah, if you don't remember the kanji keyword, that's fine. That is perfectly fine. If you kind of understand or comprehend what it means, then that's the main goal. And definitely, if you know how it's used in Japanese, that's even better. That's kind of the reason why in the decks that I have, I include all the like up to 6 different words, 6 common words, up to 6 common words that use that kanji. As again, it can in some words there could be dozens, if not dozens of words that use that kanji, if not more. But yeah, try to limit it to 6. Especially as a common, that like Boon, there's lots of words that use that kanji. That said, let's see, for parts, I think, now that I kind of think of like, maybe a pie, like, think of like a pie, piece of pie, maybe as a visual, that might make sense. Like, think of like an eighth or a quarter. Yeah, maybe as a visual, if you want to, because you're going to see parts in there. This appears in other kanji. I never thought of a good visual for that kanji, or I never thought about it. But now that you're making me think about that kanji, think of it as part, like part of a whole. So, and think of it like a piece of pie, so a whole piece of pie, and you kind of like, here's that knife cutting a pie into 8 pieces, so 8. And dagger, so so you use a pie to cut into 8 pieces. So just think of like a piece of pie. That just think of that as being that kanji as that, and then as a visual when you see it in other kanji, to help you with the story. Anyway, that's it. Let's carry on.
シンジ君はあの後レーザーカッターで非常ハッチを切断。
Emergency hatch? Hachi. Hatch. 非常ハッチ。
強制排除されたらしい。
強制排除されたらしい。
参ったね。今度はダメかもしれないわね。あのバカ立ち直れないわよ。きっと碇君は怪我はしてないんだし、その気づくわよ。今頃夢でも見てんじゃないの？夢？そう。あんた見たことないの？
シンジ、なんでシンジが横に寝とんのや。ここはどこやろ。妹の病院か。
切り警報器。
なんや、シンジと綾波やないか。
碇君、どうしてあんなことしたの？
許せなかったんだ、父さんが。僕を裏切った父さんが。せっかくいい気持ちで父さんと話ができたのに父さんは僕の気持ちなんか分かってくれないんだ。
碇君は分かろうとしたの？お父さんの気持ちを。
分かろうとした。
なぜ分かろうとしないの？
分かろうとしたんだよ。
Let me see something. Is that a phrase? No. どうする？
こうやって嫌なことから逃げているのね。
いいじゃないか。嫌なことから逃げ出して何が悪いんだよ。
何口喧嘩しとんねや、あの二人。
面会は特別だから5分だけよ。はい、ありがとうございます。
面会。
なんや、いいんちゃうんか。
鈴原、大丈夫？
ああ、生きとるみたいやな。なんや、シンジがおったような気がしとったけど。
だけど
夢やったんかいな。
碇君は昨日退院したそうよ。3日も寝てたんだから、鈴原は。
そうか、3日もか。委員長は。
ここに来たのは委員長として公務で来たのよ。
公務で。
それ以外の何でもないのよ。
ああ、分かっとるわ。
分かってないわよ。
すまんかったな。弁当食えへんで。
いいのよ、そんなこと。でもごめんね、ここでお弁当を食べさせちゃいけないんだって。
委員長。
委員長。
何？
一つ頼んでええか？
うん。
妹にわしは何でもあらへんと言うといてんか？
うん。
出たまえ、碇シンジ君。総司令がお会いになる。
総司令。Official command, official.
命令違反、エヴァの私的占有。
命令違反、私的転入。personal use? 私的転入。自分のものをすると。possession, occupation。私的転入。
稚拙な恫喝。
稚拙な恫喝。稚拙な恫喝。
これらは全て犯罪行為だ。何か言いたいことがあるか？
はい、僕はもうエヴァに乗りたくありません。ここにもいたくありません。
では出て行け。
はい、先生のところへ戻ります。
また逃げ出すのか？お前には失望した。もう会うこともあるまい。
失望。お前には失望した。もう会うことも
あるまい。はい、そのつもりです。
ましょう。サードチュールにましょう。
初号機の専属パイロットはレイをベーシックにダミープラグをバックアップに回せ。
Basic, right? Beginner's all person. No, basic. 何をベーシックにダミープラグバックアップにも。
シンジか、ここから出てくって本当か？本当なんだな。でもなぜだよ。なぜ今さら逃げんだよ。俺はお前に憧れてたんだ。羨ましいよ。俺たちとは違うんだからな。畜生、当時までエヴァに乗れるっていうのに俺は。
この電話は盗聴されています。密保持のため回線を切らせていただきました。
保持、密保持のため回線を切らせていただきます。
ご協力を感謝いたします。
アスカは切れてこないでしょうね。
切れて切らる切れ。You guys 切れてこないでしょ。
ええ、よろしくとも言ってなかったわ。
彼女らしいです。安心しました。
そうやって愛想ばかりついてるとこれから先辛いわよ。
それは美里さんの生き方です。僕にはできません。
分かってると思うけど、これから先あなたの行動にはかなりの制限がつくから。
かなりの制限がつくから。
はい。
何？
一つだけ教えてください。なぜ当時なんですか、フォースチルドレンが。
第4次選抜候補者は
次戦入候者は次選抜第4次選抜候補者選抜候補者はすべてあなたのクラスメートだったの。
すべてあなたのクラスメートだったのよ。私も最近知ったわ。すべて仕組まれていたことだったの。
仕組まれていた。仕組む。Family? Arrange, devise, plot. 仕組まれていたことだと。
みんなが、クラスのみんなが。
鈴原君のことはいくら言葉で謝っても取り消されるミスではないわ。でもシンジ君、正直私はあなたに自分の夢、願い、目的を重ねていたわ。 それがあなたの重荷になってるのも知ってる。でも
主に重い荷物、主にそれがあなたの
私たちはネルフのみんなはあなたに未来を託すしかなかったのよ。
託すした。That's a consignment, right? Trust. 託すしかなかったのは。
それだけは覚えておいてね。
勝手な言い分ですよね。
それは分かってるわ。本部までのパスコードとあなたの部屋はそのままにしておくから。
だですよ。片付けておいてください。僕はもうエヴァには乗りません。
積極的に話をしている。初めてね、こんなの。
ただいま東海地方を中心に非常事態宣言が発令されました。
東海地方を中心に非常事態宣言が発令されました。
住民の皆様は速やかに
速やかに住民の皆様は速やかに
指定のシェルターへ避難してください。
指定のシェルターへ避難してください。
繰り返します。
繰り返します。So yeah, this is just like the previous. This is, I mean, I just remembered 13 and 14 were really difficult. Now the one yesterday, I only did one just because had some time constraints. But I think, the only real, besides the very first episode, first two episodes were really like slamming down hard on. But yeah, beyond that, it's progressively gotten easier. So I am noticing that the. By the way, I mean, like I said, I don't know. Like I said, he's 14 and all that, but it felt like there was some it's more like a father was chastising his child as opposed to a commanding officer essentially doing a court martial on a insubordinate person. Although, again, with the situation at hand, it's kind of difficult when when stuff is done in the heat of the moment. Although with him, it wasn't really heat of the moment, in that this was definitely after the battle was done, and he was just gotten angrier and angrier at what was essentially a command decision. Let's not get. Yeah, I already talked enough of that at length. But yeah, this it seems rough, but I mean, you kind of how do I say it? It's one of those things, like, if you allow it to happen, then it makes it feel like, oh, it's going to be, it can happen more and more. It's like, well, he got to disobey orders, and he wasn't punished, so, maybe I can then second guess, or at least don't have to follow immediately. When you kind of, in situations like the military, or even actually most emergency services, you definitely want immediate response. You need to have, here's an order, and you got to assume that the order given is done for the right reasons, even if you don't know what the reasons are. You can't say, well, you don't always get the chance to ask why. Now, a good leader tries to explain his decisions if the time's available. That's one, because by explaining the order and whatnot, you give education and training to your subordinates, and then, because again, hopefully, it's sooner or later someone, eventually, you're always trying to train. You should always be training your replacement. If you're doing your life right, yeah, you're always trying to train your replacement. Now that goes opposite of what you hear in like the civilian corporate world, where you don't want to train your replacement because then you get replaced. That's why it's probably good, like when you get a more structure like the military, where you kind of want to get replaced because you're getting promoted, or again, you want to be able to have some time off, or something may happen where you change jobs, even though you still stay in the military. These are things you want to happen, and so you should always be trying to make sure. Sort of like I was saying about how if you're a good leader, and a good subordinate and a good leader is you make the person above you, you make their job easier, because hopefully they've got maybe, if you got the structure done right, it's actually in levels of 3. So the person in charge, you should have direct control over 3 people, and then each of those persons could have direct control over 3 people. It's just easier to communicate. Like you could communicate up to 1 person and communicate down to 3, and with that pyramid-like structure, you can actually get stuff. And if you got a really good communication in play, and you can actually get stuff done quite well in a very efficient manner. It's a very powerful way of working, but you need to make sure there's that level of trust and belief in the orders. Whereas it's you kind of want to say, hey, I want to follow it fast. If there's time, but if time is of the essence, then you got to make sure also that, hey, this person follows the orders immediately and doesn't question it. And you don't want to be insubordinate publicly. You can like behind the scenes go back and say, hey, why the hell did you give that order? That was stupid. But you're doing that privately. So now it's not being insubordinate publicly, and then because of that, there could be a discussion, because again the time allows it. Whereas if you do it in front of the people, it's like, hey, look, we can't have this discussion because now it undermines my authority. It makes it say, hey, everyone get to say, oh, I don't need to do what he's saying, because or even worse, it's like saying this guy over here doesn't have to pay attention because he's the favorite of the boss, and then again that creates inter-unit conflict, and you don't want that either. So it's and this doesn't even have to work in the military. This works on any level of most jobs. If you try to set the job where even if you're the boss, if you're trying to micromanage everyone, like you're going beyond 3 to 5 people, reevaluate your level to where it's like, okay, hey, look, you just directly communicate, you directly are, people report to you, should be like 3 to 5 people directly report to you. Then the rest, they can report through subordinates. Then the subordinates gather it up into a good package to then send up to you. Get rid of the extraneous stuff and just with the importance. As long as, and again, the reverse is true. Like, hey, you report down to 3 or 5, and then they decide like who needs to, which area or department it's most important to go to. And then they divide it up among them. Like they may know, oh, I can't get John to do this because again he's going to be going on vacation the next day, whereas the boss may have forgotten or not even known about it. So, but because it gone through the intermediaries, and it makes sure, hey, it's not going to go to John, it's going to go to 1 or 2 other people that could, do the work. And that's, again, that pyramid structure is a very, very powerful. And, with 3 to 4 people, 3 to 5 people, then also you can replace parts of it, and, somebody can move up or down depending on, oh, look, this boss, he lost one of the subordinates, he can probably temporarily do one of the subordinates' jobs, till that person gets replaced or can come back. And the reverse is true, where one of the subordinates can then take place of the boss. So it's just a matter of, what is best for that situation at hand. Yeah, sorry about getting into that. But then and again, it doesn't have to be military. You can do this on, any job, where, again, if you're a manager, hopefully you got like a lead line. Like if you've got a manager of 15, if you're a manager of a restaurant with 15 people, hopefully they're in sections, and you got one, maybe 3 to 4 people are the head line persons or whatever it's happen to be, like in the back room or in the front room or in the handling of the waiters or waitresses or the cooks or the cleaners and whatnot. And you got one person to go to, and then they can control the rest. It's and it's kind of it works quite well if you do it right. Anyway, sorry about that. Let's keep going.
目標は
対空
現在進行中です。駒ヶ岳防衛線突破されました。
第1から18番走行まで3回。
Armor. Okay, 18th armored まで。
18もある特殊装甲一緒に。
エヴァーの地上迎撃は間に合わないわ。2号機をジオフロント内に配置。本部施設の直縁に回して。
直縁。
アスカには目標がジオフロント内に侵入した瞬間を狙い撃ちさせて。0号機は AT フィールド中和地点に配置されています。
左腕の再生がまだなのよ。
戦闘は無理か。
レイは初号機で出す。ダミープラグをバックアップとして用意。
はい。
エントリースタート。 LCL 電化連電神経接続開始。
電化。
ダメなのね。パルス逆流。初号機神経接続を拒絶しています。
凝接して。
まさかそんな。
怒り。ああ、私を拒絶するつもりか。
私を拒絶する。
起動中止。レイは0号機で出撃させろ。初号機はダミープラグで再起動。
しかし0号機は。
構いません。行きます
ね。私が死んでも代わりはいるもの。
僕はもう乗らないって決めたんだ。
君、何をしている？早くシェルターに避難しなさい。
ダメです。あと一撃で全ての装甲は突破されます。
頼んだわよ、アスカ。
That's the armor, right? Armoring.
来たわね。シンジなんかいなくったって。あんなの私一人でお茶の子さいさいよ。
お茶の子さいさい。さいさい。お茶の子さいさいを。
フィールドは中和しているはずなのに、なんでやられないのよ。もう二度と負けらんないのよ。私は
嘘。Owie. Jeez.
こっちくしょー。あった。全神経接続をカット早く。避難訓練？あんたバカ？私たちパイロットには関係ないじゃん。
第8区に直撃。第6シェルターは放棄。生きてる。
2号機大破。戦闘不能。
アスカは
無事です。生きてます。使徒移動開始。
初号機の状況は？
torso. That should be torso, right? 搭載完了。
コンタクトスタート。
探査 Deep Inquiry 探査シーン
了解。
何？
パルス消失、ダミーを拒絶。ダメです。エヴァ初号機起動しません。
ダミーをレイを
受け入れないのか。冬月、少し頼む。
怪我人は第6ブロックへ。無事な者は第3センターへ急がせよ。
こっちだ。
早く。おい君、何してる？知りたいのか？
シンジ君じゃないか。
カジさん、何やってるんですかこんなところで。
それはこっちのセリフだよ。
こっちのセリフだよ。I was gonna say the same thing. こっちのセリフだよ。Let's see if that's a phrase. No, okay. こっちのセリフだよ。
何やってるんだ、シンジ君は。
僕はもうエヴァには乗らないから。そう決めたから。
そうか。アルバイトが公になったんだね。戦闘配置に俺の居場所はなくなったんだ。
アルバイトが公になった。
以来ここで水をまいてる。
こんな時にですか？
こんな時だからだよ。葛城の胸の中もいいが、やはり死ぬ時はここにいたいからね。
死ぬ？
そうだ、使徒がここの地下に眠るアダムと接触すれば
接触すれば
人は全て滅びると言われている。
人は全て滅びる。人は全て滅びると言われている。
サードインパクトでね。それを止められるのは人と同じ力を持つエヴァンゲリオンだけだ。
早波、ライフルも持たずに。自爆する気？
レイ。
全開。
ゼロ号機は
なんてこと。
シンジ君、 俺はここで水をまくことしかできない。だが君には君にしかできない、君にならできることがあるはずだ。誰も君に強要はしない。自分で考え、自分で決めろ。自分が今何をすべきなのか。まあ後悔のないようにな。
Go on. Oh. Yeah, it says it go on.
最終走行版誘拐。
まずい、レインシャフトが丸見えだわ。
超合金はまだなの？
ダミープラグ拒絶。ダメです、反応ありません。
続けろ。もう一度108からやり直せ。
乗せてください。僕をこの初号機に乗せてください。
父さん、
なぜここにいる？
僕はエヴァンゲリオン初号機のパイロット碇シンジです。
目標はメインシャフトに侵入。降下中です。
目的地は
そのままセントラルドグマへ直進しています。
降下中です。目的地はドグマ、セントラルドグマへ直進して。
ここに来るわ。総員退避、急いで。総員退避、了解。総員退避。エヴァ初号機新宿。
That sucks.
動け動け動け動け動いてよ。今動かなきゃ何にもならないんだ。
What is that supposed to be?
エヴァ再起動。すごい。まさか。信じられません。初号機のシンクロ率が 400% を超えています。
やはり目覚めた彼女が。
That's creepy.
S2 機関自ら取り込んでいるというの。
水で取り込んで水から取り込んで取り込む consuming, right? 取り込む bring in okay 取り込んでいる。
エヴァ初号機。
高速oh restraints, right? What was that? Restriction. 高速具が
高速具。そうよ、あれは装甲板ではないの。エヴァ本来の力を私たちが抑え込むための高速具なの。
抑え込む held down, constrain 抑え込む私たちが抑え込むための高速具なんだ。
その呪縛が今自らの力で解かれていく。
呪縛まじないよ起きないよ。呪縛その呪縛が今自らの力。
私たちにもうエヴァを止めることはできないの。
初号機の覚醒と解放。
覚醒Awakening. Let's look at that real quick. To sober up. Okay. 覚醒初号機を覚醒と
精霊が黙っちゃいませんな。これも
精霊が黙っちゃいませんな。
シナリオのうちですか。いかにし始まったな。
ああ、全てはこれからだ。
叫ぶような声。Okay, I'm impressed. That was a good episode. That was a really good episode.
エヴァの覚醒により人類は救われた。
覚醒によりエヴァの覚醒により人類を救われた。救われた。
だがシンジは初号機に取り込まれ物理的融合してしまう。
物理的物理的フィジカル物理的融合してしまう。
失敗する彼のサルベージ。号泣するミサトが見たものは
号泣する
次回心の形人の形。
心の形。Okay, cool. Shogeki on. Yeah, attack sound. Yes. Oh wow. Yeah, so I think I can, I can see how this is one of those shows where it's getting better. It doesn't just start off awesome, and so this show didn't start off awesome. This was like, it felt like a Monster of the Week type setup. It kind of reminds me of sort of like how Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. went. Like, it started off like, it was doing the setup, introduced the new guy, and all of a sudden revealing like, hey, what's all this cool stuff that's happening around, and then obviously Shinji's the cool new guy who's getting all this new stuff. Almost like he was completely blind to the world, and now he's getting to see what all this stuff is about. So that's how we got to introduce everything. Then now kind of got to see, okay, yeah, there's more to the story than just, hey, these monsters are attacking, we got to defend it. It isn't just doing the whole Voltron approach of, hey, here's the new monster, let's destroy it. Okay, good, new monster comes up, let's destroy it. At the end, it's not doing that. You can definitely tell the story is developing, and definitely like with this is like ultimately this. Not only do you want to make sure that his son could synchronize completely with this monster, but also somehow make sure that this thing had a power source to make it last. Yeah, I like how they said, like, it looks at, that wasn't armor. Those were it's like, I guess, I think I'd never seen Dragon Ball Z, but I always remember how they said, like, the guy was always wearing, like, massive weights around his ankle weights and wrist weights. All of a sudden, when he took it off, all of a sudden, the mountain he was standing on just, like, all of a sudden just grew, like, enormous amounts, just the amount of pressure that he kept himself under in order, so when all that was restrained, then all of a sudden it's like he got to use his full power. He realized how dangerous he could be. But in this, it's a little, so he became fused to machine, I think. It's a mental connection, and you can kind of take a guess it has something to do with his mother. I mean, there's just like the Magi were, essentially variations of that one lady's mother. I think there's something about his mom's, or Rei, and there's some hints to where like they're actually the same person. Like essentially, Rei is just a copy of his mother, or something, or like, because he was hoping like, he was. I guess it felt like trying to get around not using his son, but he's like finally saying like, okay, there's no. Okay, yeah, I'm gonna have to actually use it. You can kind of tell there's something going on that involves he needs to use his son in this, and there's no other way. Even though he's trying to get around not using his son. So I like how the story's going on that, and like I said, this is like the previous story where you got to see the monster unleashed, and you realize like, okay, hey, this thing is dangerous. It needs to be under control. And now you got to see what happens when it's completely on its own, unleashed. Like it can take parts of its enemies and add it to itself. So that's a nice little ability. It can consume its enemy and then take its power for itself. In this case, I guess S2 is like it's the power source, and basically, so it doesn't. And you also realize about the armor, like obviously it needs some power if it's going to be using weaponry. But if this doesn't need weaponry, then it's going to be kind of interesting. But yeah, I can tell. I'm guessing like this is one of the episodes where they realize, oh shit, like this is when people have been watching it definitely get the oh shit moments. Like, okay, this is where it got real. Like now it's the end game. Like, okay, hey, this is the end of the middle. Now we get to see how everything ends, because there's only like 7 or so episodes left. In fact, there's actually 5 episodes in a movie. The movie's about the equivalent of 4 episodes. So not counting the last 2 episodes of the series, we're going to instead do the movie. The movie's 120 minutes or so. So I want to say it's going to treat it like 4 anime episodes. And go with that. So there's a good third of the series left. So this is definitely the end, the end stage of the story. We can find out where all these things start coming together. And you know, again, that the committee that he was talking to, you know, with all the countries, Zere or whatever it was, Sail, yeah, they were being kept in the dark about what his, you know, his true intentions are for the creating of the Evangelions. And like they were even mentioning, like, hey, look, all these Evangelions are under control of this one guy. When you think about it, 3, maybe 4. I don't know if that 4th one is still in control yet. So it's hard to tell, like, what's the goal here. But like with that, they could just basically control the. There's nothing on the planet that could stop Nerv, which is kind of a dangerous situation to be in. Yeah, I can, and like I said, I'm kind of pseudo cheating again because I'm reading up on the episode as before I watch it, so I do know what's happening going into it. But I'm just limiting it to the episode I'm going to be watching for right now. But again, reading this, I thought definitely there was the write-up. It was a very detailed write-up, but this was really cool to watch. So I'll admit that it is. You can definitely tell how graphics. I mean, this is getting very violent, very, very violent. This isn't just it. You know, before it kind of felt like, you know, these are just robots killing each other. So no big deal. You know, even the goop was kind of a bluish purple color or whatnot. So it didn't feel personal. But now you're seeing it's like it's definitely blood red, and that, you know, you feel like these are creatures. These are like, you know, almost human-like things attacking each other. You know, it's definitely like the previous episode where, again, through the punch to the head, and then all of a sudden this blood flows everywhere. And even in this one, again, you know, both the monsters are, you know, full of red blood. You know, it's no longer like some type of purple hydraulic oil. You know, it's like, okay, we are seeing, and with that, it's viscerally, it feels like these are people that are fighting, even though, you know, these are monstrous people, but people nonetheless. And you have that feeling, so that makes it feel. The visceral feeling is there to where, yeah, you start thinking, man, I hope children aren't watching this, because this got serious in the last few episodes. It started off like kind of Voltron level, now it's approaching Attack on Titan levels, where, again, you got the boy in the bed, where I guess you can look at the image. It looked like he had, Toji had lost a leg, and whatnot, and so he's like all sorts of messed up. They still haven't like directly shown like people being killed. Let me see, I'm trying to make sure. Yeah, it's been kind of hands off on that one, but even without that, you can definitely feel the violence that this and the previous episode are really bringing to the forefront. So I'm guessing it's going to get even. Again, this is where the creature just is consuming the other monster. It kind of had it just, something felt wrong. Like, it was like, this is going beyond what, you know, you're expecting for the story. So yeah, this is a really good episode. And again, and in fact, even Asuka's character wasn't annoying this time. It was just a little bit, but you felt like, yeah, it's, again, the less she's in it, or the less she's in it, like her personality comes to the forefront, then again, the story moves along and it works quite good. You know, definitely the Kaji character is good. Misato's character is good in all this. Yeah, all the other characters worked good. So, yeah, and you don't know if Rei's been destroyed or not. I don't think that was established here yet. So, I mean, if her character, her robot's destroyed, sorry, these are not robots. These are definitely, yeah, even cyborg would be a bad, maybe it's the wrong, I don't know, maybe cyborg would be a good term. But yeah, definitely biomechanical. There's probably a better term for it. But yeah, this is, when you think about it, kind of like Attack on Titan. If you've never seen Attack on Titan, I apologize. But again, Attack on Titan is kind of like biomechs in that. Kind of like Evangelion, in that, again, you have humans that are, you know, except for those that don't have human control. It's like, yeah, that's what these, I guess that's why that story is also kind of fun, in that you do have that element. But it's a lot more personal in that you definitely see the, you know, how the violence that these creatures can impact on, you know, your average person. And it's not pretty. It is not pretty. Oh, Okay, yeah. So with this episode, I can see how people become big fans of the show. If I was just the first half, I would say, okay, this is an okay anime. I'm not a fan. With this episode, it and the build-up that it established, except for Asuka's character and the little goofiness that happened in the with her introduction with all the battleships. That aside, it's it's a really good story. And now you think back on everything that's set up, you can then appreciate what was being done. Yeah, it was a slow burn. And I guess the term is called it's a slow burn, where they're trying to establish all these elements. And with the opposite would be, you know, you see some shows fall into that trap where everything's formulaic. Like every time it's like, if you've ever seen Voltron or Power Rangers, everything's the exact same thing. There's almost no overarching story, and there's no end point. It's always about, okay, here's the new monster, destroy it. Okay, next day, here's a new monster, okay, destroy it. Here's the next monster, destroy it. They might pretend like, oh my god, there's trouble, we can't do it. Magic happens. Oh, we can do it now, and then it gets defeated easily. Whereas in this one, and again, it's kind of funny in that it got defeated. You know, again, magic happened, the monster came about, but you realize, like, you know, and it defeated the angel like almost no problem. You know, again, it's like it wasn't no longer fighting an enemy. It was like, oh, good, lunch is served, and you realize like it wasn't a victory. It was like horrific, and that's really what you want to see. It's like, you know, there's this path that's been taken. You know, we still don't know a lot of stuff. Like, we don't know why the angels are coming. Like, who the fuck's sending the angels? Is it humans that are fucking around with each other, or is this all one big experiment? Is it all set up, or was this expected and they knew it was going to happen, so this is their reaction to it? Like, we don't know. Let's see. Oh yeah, for to come to consciousness, or yeah. Right there, kakusei. Yeah, so the only kanji I didn't know was the sei, but I mean, you look at that, sake and stars. So if it comes like sober up, like right there, to sober up, that makes sense. Like, okay, hey, let's say when you start sobering up, you start noticing even the small dots of light or stars and whatnot. So that's easy enough. Like, you know, when the sake starts wearing off, all of a sudden you got maybe the hangover a little bit, you know, but you start seeing stars in your vision, but they start going away. So that's an easy visual for thinking about that, and it's sei. So sei, because that's Hoshi, but also if you saw it by itself, again it's like heisei, or is it heisei? Eisei for like satellites or whatnot, then, or kasei for Mars, or dosei for Saturn. Yeah, for planet or stars. So that's easy. So this is the meaning, rough meaning. So it has to do with sobering up. So like someone goes drunk and sober up. So that's the meaning portion of it. And this is the pronunciation portion of it, which is sei. So that if you start getting familiar with kanji and you can separate the two, like the left side normally is the meaning, or theme of the kanji, and the right side is the pronunciation, or the onyomi pronunciation normally for that kanji. And that makes life. So not only do you get a meaning by seeing the character, you also get an overall. So, you know, like, even if you don't know what this is, you at least know it has something related to drinking because of the sake thing, and something related to and pronounced as sei, at least as an onyomi, just with that alone. But yeah, but it's easy enough to, like, with those two, think of a mnemonic, visual mnemonic, or even just a straight word mnemonic of, okay, sobering up or to be awakened. And then the word itself, kakusei, okay, yeah, that makes sense, where it's stimulant, or the awakening. Meo samasu koto. So yeah, right there. Meo samasu koto. Mega sameru koto. I like this. Like, imagine, say, hey, what does this word mean? And they give you this one there. I mean, can you imagine that? Oh man, that would be. Oh, you dicks. It's like, oh, just switch to kanji. Oh yeah, that's perfectly clear now. Seikaku. I don't know what that word means. I'm assuming. That's kanji for you, though. Yeah, that's obviously, I don't know if Marsman is still watching. I don't think he is. But if you study kanji, it just makes learning the vocabulary easier. Once you also realize there's some other tricks, like, you know, the left side is normally thematics. So that means like, hey, this is water, so think of stuff dealing with water. This is ice, so think of stuff dealing with cold. This is state of mind, so this is some type of mental condition. This is a tree, so it's either plant or a tree. This is flower, so this is plants or flowers. Normally, it's not, but it's not fully that way. It's just, but it's roughly that. And then you got pronunciations. There's say, do, to. You know, if it's the neck, then it's to. If it's onaji, then it's do. If it's what's another one? Men, like the face, so it's men. So you know, that's just how you can pronounce it as onyomi. Once you figured out that trick, then it, you know, you get a few things for free from the kanji. You get a few free things. You still got to do the work of knowing like the words that use these two kanji. Like again, if you said kakusei, and you kind of know it's like waking up or remembering or waking up, and then sei means sobering up. You may or may not guess that means to awaken. You might guess it, but maybe not. So it is good. You do need to know the word. And if the kanji are reversed, where it's seikaku, it might have a. In fact, pardon me. Let me go and actually look that up, because now I'm wondering. Okay, come here. So here's the part. If you use this as a dictionary, is that now you can also seikaku, open one's eyes. So kakusei is awakening, seikaku, to open one's eyes. It's the same meaning. Jusei shima. Okay, anyway, so there you go. It actually has pretty much the same meaning. Yeah. Anyway, so Marsman, hopefully this helps convince, you know, I know you're already saying you're having really good results from studying kanji directly. And again, because it's just a 500, so these are used 75% of the time. So those kanji that you're learning, you should start, you probably see all over the place in this particular subtitles, in these subtitles. Then you'll probably notice like it also makes learning words like easy, even if you don't even know how to say the word. Like just you learn like, here's the kanji for cat, here's the kanji for car. Now there is no way in hell you're going to guess that means wheelbarrow, and you may not know how to pronounce it. It's pronounced nekoguruma, but just remembering cat and car means wheelbarrow, easy. Yubi wa, so finger and ring, so it just means ring, or just a ring for the finger. Yubi wa. Some things don't make sense because they're just used for pronunciation values, like shimbun. Now, new here, okay, I guess you can kind of think of that. You can kind of relate that to newspaper in a way. But there are a few that are just adage, means they're just for their sound value only. Like I think ketsu and kekko or zettai. Those are mainly adage. Like the meanings of the kanji aren't really related to the meaning of the words that are used in it. It's mainly the pronunciation of the kanjis are used. That's the only reason. So you may find that as well. So don't worry though. It's still going to be fun when you start learning words in that way. And you can already see like, hey, you know, with this, you're looking at it and it's like, oh my God, like some of this actually makes like you got the hiragana and katakana, so that's already there, right? So even if you don't know what the word means, you're at least knowing how it sounds, so you can follow along with as the dialogue goes, because again, you can kind of see where the sounds are at. And then also though, as you slowly start seeing kanji, it's like, well, okay, you know, you're having fun, you're kind of making, it's like, okay, you know what this word is, you know what this word is, you know what this word is. You might not know how to say it, but you know what it means, and that's kind of fun. And then In fact, Marsman saying, yeah, there are times when I see a new word and I know the kanji meaning. I don't know how to pronounce it. And sometimes it's enough to follow along, but it can still drive you nuts. And don't let that worry you. Let's say, hey, look, over time that gets less and less. And it actually, even though it's actually not less and less, because again, it starts revealing a lot more words to you, but they become less intimidating. Just more like, you know, hey, I'll eventually be getting to that word. You know, I'm covering the basics, and because I've covered the basic, I'm going to be running into these words and these kanji all the time. And I'm going to be having fun because now all of a sudden now I've got comprehension to go with it, and then it's going to be easier for me to recognize the words I don't know. Like right here, this is armored plating. Soko ban, whatever. The pan, Soko pan, maybe. The armored plating. How to say it? I don't know. To me, it's just fun. It's almost like you're solving puzzles in a way, and that makes it entertaining to when you get to the reading part of it. And maybe that's why for me the reading has always been easier than the listening. Is that I can look at it, and because I've had such a strong start with kanji, too strong of a start actually, the reading was just that much easier because I got the most comprehension from it. So I mean, I got the most enjoyment. I was more willing to do it. So by me now, and it should have been obvious in hindsight, way back when, if I thought about doing it way back when, I should have done it way back when. I didn't, was just reading to the audio. And even if it was just the audio happened to be the audio of the TV show that I ripped, like here, and I was just reading along as the audio played, that could have been helped my reading that much better and my listening to go at the same time. You know, could have just been reinforcing and just, just gotten a lot more out of it. But again, hindsight's 20/20 and whatnot. That said, though, hey, you know, this is I was saying, like, think about doing it. Here's a bunch of words. It just, and by the way, I know I'm looking at nothing right now. It just happens to be on screen. It's like there's all the text and whatnot over there, but still. It just makes for a good visual for me to look over there and wave my hand, and it's like I'm pointing at all that stuff. You know, maybe do if I were really, I'm not the type of person to add After Effects, but add something, do some magic or whatnot. And okay, I'm not going to do that, but yeah, you're not the only one that finds reading easier than listening. Listening does get better, and hopefully the pronunciation gets better. Sometimes I'll go back and I'll look at this and Saishu Soko Pan Kai, was it Saikai? Yukai, so dissolved. Mazui, main shaft. Let's see. Oh, I didn't notice that one. Marumie. 全部見えてしまうことすっかり見えて丸見えだわ。Surveillance, right? Fully exposed view. Okay. Main shaft. 丸見えだわ. So yeah, the main shaft is exposed. 初号機はまだな is not ready. ダミプラグ 強説 being rejected. ダメです。反応ありません. There's no response. 続ける keep going. もう一度108 or 108からやり直せ。乗せてください. Okay, and that's where Shinji comes in and talks. 僕を小号機の乗せてください. なぜここにいる? 僕はエヴァンゲリオン小号機のパイレット. 光信じです。This is not easy dialogue to try to repeat. All right, I think I've done enough of that. So thank you all very much. Like I said, this was a good episode. This is one of those episodes where, hey, now I'm excited to see where this story is going. I mean, because I do know there's an end to the story, which is really good. Because I've seen animes that just had no end in sight. I think One Piece. I actually have never watched One Piece except for maybe 1 or 2 episodes. I just couldn't get into just the idea like there's no ending to the story. So that just kind of like automatically just makes, because I ran into that same problem with Inuyasha. Like I was watching a lot of Inuyasha, and this is before I was learning Japanese, and it just like, what's the point? I mean, it's the same story over and over again. I was trying to like, again, it just, there was no growth. Like everything that happened, like there was, or if there is growth, it's like it almost falls into comic book territory where, yeah, the growth that happened, but it's like because different comic book artists or comic book writers over the decades, so it's like you got all this backstory that was like disconjointed, and then you might have a really good author that kind of knows how to combine all that backstory into something that is a really cool news story. We're trying to keep it faith to what had happened previously, but they may change like the timeline a bit. So obviously Peter Parker wasn't bitten by the spider in the 60s. Now he was bitten in like the era 2000, or in this case now 2010s. It's always like you got to kind of like bring it up because he always has to be a high school kid. But they want to think back to like all the events that happened way back when should always come about. So that's why it kind of feels stupid that the origin stories just seem like they're always being, it's like okay, we've seen Batman's parents, we've seen Bruce Wayne's parents killed how many times? Come on, we don't need to see it again. Or Superman, come on, we've seen Krypton destroyed, we don't need to see it again. Or you've never really seen Wonder Woman's origin story, so that was kind of good. Although you kind of knew about it slightly. Say with Peter Parker, like I said, we know, okay, we got bit by a spider, okay, Uncle Ben, but they, again, they change. If they give something new with the story, it kind of makes it fun. And if it feels like there's an end in sight, then you can be invested in the story. You don't feel like, oh, I can miss this one because it's just, it's just episodic. That kind of takes it away. That's why I'm not that impressed with Star Trek as opposed to Babylon 5. Babylon 5 had a 5-year story, and it was like an amazing ending. And it had a weak 5th season, but it still had a really good story. But ultimately, the story was told in 4 seasons. You can watch the first 4 seasons of Babylon 5 and then the final episode, and you've got a really good completeness to the story. But you can even add in the 5th season. The first half is kind of but then the second half is actually pretty good with the Centauri Civil War, or the Centauri War. Breaking Bad had a full story. It happened. Watchmen had a full story. It was very short, but yeah, it had a full story. You kind of worry about getting invested in Westworld because is there a full story? And I'm getting feel like there's no real full story. There's like they can always continue it, but even if they contain it within each season, then that's fine. But if this like Voltron, where it's like it's just repeat, it just, I don't know, there's nothing to invest in. There's no growth. You don't feel like, you can't look back and see like, oh, what led to this episode. Whereas with definitely Neon Genesis, you can see everything that led to this episode. And some of it was goofy and whatnot, but for the most part, it's been an enjoyable ride. Marsman. Yeah, I don't really like watching stuff longer than 30 episodes. All the good stuff must come to the end. Yeah, and also like, House. I mean, there was like, it just ended, but it was like, there was some little bit of growth. For the most part, it's like, yeah. And then it was like 22 episodes. Like, god damn, I don't want to. That's a heavy investment now. Whereas I love about shows on HBO or Netflix where it's just, hey, here's 8 to 12 episodes for a season just to tell the story, and it's actually a pretty well enclosed story as well. So if you just watch that, you can have a very satisfying story. Or, hey, there could be a sequel, but you're not like bound to watch the sequel. You can say, hey, you know what? It worked good where it ended. Like I have not seen season 3, and I'm probably not going to see season 4 yet of Stranger Things. Maybe I'll end up watching it. But just a feeling. Anyway, we're getting way off topic. Anyway. Again, really like this episode. It's making all that pain of being able to trying to get through, just trying to comprehend the storyline through all the very difficult vocabulary. Worth it. That was a really good episode. Cool. All right, well, with that said, let's call that a day. Thank you all very much. This is Nuke Marine. I'll be back tomorrow with episodes 20 and 21. You know, hey, if this story keeps getting... Yeah, like I said, I'm kind of, hopefully, I'm not looking forward then to the... like I said, I hadn't heard too many good things about either the last 2 episodes or the movie. Like it was building great, and all of a sudden it just had like a super weak ending. That would be kind of disappointing. Unlike Game of Thrones, because Game of Thrones, it was like going downhill since the 5th season. So for there, it's like, it was just continuing of a disappointment by the time the 8th season rolled around. Definitely that last 2 episodes, good God. But this would be different. Like if it's doing such a great build up and all of a sudden it just has a horrible ending, that would be a very big letdown. And so hopefully it's not the case. All right. Thank you all very much, and yeah, I'll see you when I see you. Thanks for watching. All right, later, guys.